Hello and welcome back. It's JP1970 coming to you with another video. Recently I saw a couple videos, one by Mr. KS74, did a little bio video, talked about himself and his background, and then I also was watching Jersey Nick Moto. I'm going to put links to both their channels down below, and I encourage you, if you haven't checked those guys out, you really need to. They're a couple of really solid guys, and they're into motos, they're into motorcycles, they're into moto vlogging, and they're into living a good life. And you know, I've recently been kind of inspired by their wisdom, so I thought maybe I'd kind of weigh in with my 2 cents. So again, I'm JP1970, also known as Jason. That's my first name. I'm about 3 months shy of my 50th birthday. I was born in 1970. February 12th of 1970. Share a birthday with Abraham Lincoln. And so I currently I've lived in 3 states in my life. I was born in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. My dad, my grandma, my little brother and sister and I, we all moved to Southern California, a little town called San Clemente, which was the Western White House during Nixon's reign. Anyway, I promise I'm not going to get political in this video. But anyway, that's kind of one of the things it's famous for, the old Western White House. So I lived there about 21 years, and I spent probably the majority of my life working easily obtainable jobs that didn't require any kind of schooling or anything other than kind of like on-the-job training. I worked as a hotel front desk clerk, worked as a pool man, but the main thing I did for about 10 years was I worked in the window tinting business, which is very much a blue collar. You know, you go out and tint windows. I did residential and commercial type window tinting, and the company I worked for, which was also owned by my father, we also did automotive, but I did the residential and commercial. And I worked in that business from when I was 21 until I was 31, and during that time I was married and divorced and no kids, didn't have any kids of my own, but I kind of worked my way up in that industry to where I became, when my dad sold the business, I became the lead salesman for the company. So I went out and, so probably for 3 or 4 years, I worked sales, and I was pretty good at it. I had all the training, all the on-the-job training, so I was very knowledgeable about our product and very knowledgeable about what it would take to do the installation. And I guess I was a likable guy, because that's what they say. People buy from people they like, and I was able to sell quite a bit of window film back in the day. But I always had this dream of being a high school English teacher, and it goes back to some of the teachers that I had who really inspired me and just helped me to become the man I am today. In part. I have other people to thank. Certainly my own father was instrumental in helping me become the man I am today. But and I was very fortunate to work with my father for a decade, and those were some of the best years of my life, without question. So but I had this dream of being a high school English teacher. You can't just walk into that job and get it. So you need a college degree. So I went back to school. I tried it when I was 18 and wasn't ready. Went back when I was 24, still wasn't ready. And by the time I was about 28, I was actually ready. And so I got very serious about college, and I just gave it my all. I threw everything into going to school, doing well in school, and and I did. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in English, and during that time I had also quit working as a salesman and was working for the school district as an instructional aide, where I would assist the regular classroom teacher with their duties, usually special ed students. So that's where I spent probably my first 2 years, was working with special ed kids. And then once I finished my bachelor's degree and took some of the testing requirements and got some of the check marks checked off that you need to have to become a substitute teacher, I decided to go out and do that. So I'm going to flip around. We're this road dead ends here. So continuing the story. So I went back to school as a substitute teacher, and what was great about that was I was able to kind of narrow down the grade level that I was interested in teaching and the age of the kids that I wanted to work with. And I subbed in elementary schools, I subbed in middle schools, and I subbed in high schools. And what I figured out was that for me, the older kids was more what I was interested in, the population that I was interested in working with rather. So by the time I finished my student teaching, I had decided that I wanted to be confirmed rather, that I wanted to be a high school English teacher. So I did that in about 2000. I believe I first started teaching, I think the year was 2006, 2005, something like that. So almost 15 years ago. And then I got a position at Mission Viejo High School, home of the Diablos. And I taught there for 2 years, and it was very difficult. Teaching has got to be one of the most challenging occupations, careers, jobs. It's got to be. You're constantly having to field questions, and can I do this? Can I do that? Can I go to the bathroom? Can I go to my locker? Can I do this? Can I go to the nurse? All this constant stuff. And you're trying to teach, right? You're trying to teach your lessons that you've prepared. You're trying to return homework or graded work to the students in a timely fashion. Keep your grade book accurate. Keep all of your licensing requirements up to date. Anyway, okay, all that stuff. So 2 years I taught, and at the end of that 2 years, your contract is either renewed or it's not. And at the end of my 2 years, my contract was not renewed. My principal felt like I had the right stuff, but I just wasn't quite ready. And there's a whole nother story to that. I'm sure you would love to hear my side of the story, but there are definitely two sides to that story, and I believe it was very political. And it was kind of a, high school kids operate in cliques. Well, some schools, the teachers do too. And I believe I just did not fit into the clique. And so, and that kind of ties into something Jersey Nick Moto was talking about, which is, your who you are, what kind of personality you have. And I've always been an introvert. I get my energy from being alone, or being in small groups. But being Mr. Outgoing, life of the party kind of guy, really not my scene. And this particular department tended to socialize quite a bit after school and on the weekends, and that's not how I'm wired. So I didn't make all those get-togethers, and I really believe that played a role in whether I was rehired or not, or the fact that I wasn't rehired. So, all right. So, long story short, I interviewed. This was during all these budget cuts, so it was kind of a really bad timing, because here I was starting my second career, and in my early 30s, and at the time, California was, as it often is, in a state of turmoil with regard to their budget, and specifically Orange County, where I was working. That's I don't know if you ever heard of this, but Orange County actually filed bankruptcy at one point. And I'd never heard, I didn't know they could do that. But anyway, so I interviewed in Los Angeles, I interviewed in San Diego County, and long story short, it didn't happen. I did not find another position. So I put all my information into a nationwide database, and that's how I ended up in northeastern Nevada. I have to say, other than the winter, I really like it here. There's a lot of freedom. The government is not constantly taxing you for various things, charging you every time you turn around to do something. We have a lot of freedoms in this state to live our lives and to enjoy our lives. And thanks to what they call the vice tax, that is prostitution and gambling, we do not pay personal income tax, which is kind of cool. I like that. So anyway, I've been living up here for 12 years. I've been teaching now, working with kids at least since 2001, so going on 20 years. And all I'm going to say with regard to that is what? Teaching remains an extremely challenging career, but it has its moments, and that, the moments that remind you of why, or remind me anyway, of why I wanted to become a high school English teacher. And just like any other job, some days are better than others. I'm not like everybody else, or like so many other people that I know who did the marriage, who had the kids, who did that track. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. It didn't work out for me personally. I've seen it not work out for others. Didn't work out for my parents. They ended up getting divorced. And maybe that's part of why it didn't work out for me, because I'm a product of that. Anyway, I say more power to people who are happily married and enjoying that. I find not having children, for me, allows me to be kind of self-indulgent. I get to, with the money that I would be spending on a kid's braces, clothing, food, all the things that go along with raising a child, I can do things like buy this sweet new Harley Davidson that I'm riding, and drive a late model truck that I really dig, and and have, I believe the term is, what is the term? Disposable income? Have a little more disposable income. And I enjoy that. I do like having disposable income, which, I'll be honest, I wish I was better at stocking away and saving and all of that, but I'm not real good at that. So, as I like to say, maybe in my next life I'll be a little better at that. But anyway, I am responsible. I've always paid all my bills, and I've always maintained, well, not always, my 20s were a little rough. I got into a little bit of financial trouble, but today my credit is good. I have good income, and I'm able to enjoy my life. One of the things that Jersey Nick Moto touched on was finding your, I think what Jersey Nick Moto was kind of talking about was finding your place, finding your spot in the world, finding what makes you happy, what gives you purpose, and makes your life worthwhile. And I honestly always thought that I had a very idealistic, or perhaps overly optimistic view of what my teaching career was going to look like. I really thought that it would be slightly different than what it is, but it is. It's a job. It's a hard job. It's a good job, and but it has its moments. I will just leave it at that. But that has not given me the purpose and the overall life satisfaction that maybe others get from having a family, having a spouse. Maybe some people get it from belonging to a church and being religious or following a religion. Perhaps that gives people purpose. I know for some of the people I know, that seems to work for them. That didn't really work for me. The marriage with kids, that didn't work for me. The career, mostly, I would say, works for me, but not always. And so it kind of left me with this desire to find something that makes me happy, you know, and in my case, I really think I'm happiest when I'm on the back of my motorcycle and I'm just out riding and making a moto vlog, or heck, just riding, actually, even when I'm not recording. I just love it. It's well, as in the words of Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was somebody that I discovered when I was in college. He was a comparative world religion and really kind of an expert on mythology, and he would take these universal themes that people live with and people identify with, and just explain them and show how like the Star Wars movies were all about these archetypes, and the protector and the helper and the strong positive force in opposition with the bad, you know, the dark side, the evil force, the classic good versus evil struggle that exists today. I mean, it's not just, it exists today. We have it today all around us. And so what I find is, for me in my life, that I'm trying to make the world a better place because I was here. And I think I heard that somewhere along my journey. Will the world be a better place because you were here? Ask yourself that question. And so I try to live my life with that. I want the world to be a better place because I was here, not a worse place. So, you know, I just think that we are all different, and there is no one size fits all, and you just have to find your purpose. What makes you happy? What gives your life purpose and meaning? And I do think I have some good friends in my life, people I do care about very much. Like I have family that I care very much about, but I don't get to see as often as I would like. So in the meantime, I just try to live my life in peace, you know, peace with others. And I know Jersey Nick Moto also touched on alcohol and drugs a bit, and man, that's a real dark hole that you can get bogged down in. Personally, drugs were never my scene, but drinking was kind of became my thing for a while. I recently, about 2 years ago, decided that was enough, and so I quit drinking, and I've recently come up on my 2-year anniversary of no booze, and I have to say that's one of the best choices I've made. I don't miss it at all. Alright, well listen, these have been my ramblings, my reaction to Jersey Nick Moto and Mr. KS74's videos. Again, I encourage you, please check those guys out, see what they're all about, and I appreciate your time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments down below. Until next time, everybody, take care. See you in the next one.